Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. I hope everyone's having a great start to the week. I know that I've been really interested in seeing the results of the Smart Series number 3. So shout out Gabe for running these large tournament series. As much as I run the late nights and stuff like that, I'm always looking at other event results. So we had a 1,500 player event. So that's literally bigger than international regionals in a lot of areas. So huge event, and this is bigger than any event that we have standings for currently in our Black Bolt and White Flare formats. So we see that there's a lot of results, and I'm going to break this down and go through everything for later on throughout this week, and I'll have an updated top 10 based off the results of some events. So kind of kicking things off, we can kind of see where the metagame goes from here. We see that Dango was the most played deck here, and then Raging Bolt, Grimmsnarl, Dragapult Charizard, Gardevoir Jellicent, Charizard, Gardevoir, and like the kind of falls down. There's some things that are like a little bit surprising, where it's like Crustle, after winning the late night this past week, has kind of punched up in popularity. It's 3% of the metagame, so nothing crazy, but Dragapult Dusknoir is below that, Joltik Box is below that. And it's weird that now Charizard Pidgeot and Charizard Dusknoir are both separate decks, because there's a new variant of Charizard Dusknoir. We might get into that in a little bit. And then we see that there's some decks that just kind of exist. We see Ho Armarouge is doing okay. Miraidon Electric is not really living up to the hype. And then you kind of get into the Wugtrio Mills of the world. And if you're a Wugtrio Mill player, much respect to you. That deck is fun as heck. So if we look at these, we kind of see a very similar metagame to what we've had before. Dango spikes up in popularity because of Genesect coming out. Raging Bolts, Grimmsnarl, Dragapult Charizard are all the regular suspects from NAIC. Gardevoir Jellicent, probably the most hyped deck. I know that I put it number 1 in the top 10 decks last week. Not truly living up to its hype in terms of win rate here at 39% win rate. But that's also something to consider. At the Azul GG Invitational, we had both Henry Chow and Isaiah Bradner play this deck. Charizard, Pidgeot, I mean, there's a lot of decks that are trying to counter the Gardevoir decks. Like we can see Dark Deck, another Gardevoir, just straight up Gardevoir doing significantly better than Gardevoir Jellicent. And then we have EVBox, Ethan Typhlosion gets a new Brave Bangle card. Tord is very popular, so his Dragapult list from NAIC is popular. Crustle is kind of the new it deck from late night. And then we see Dragapult, we see kind of our regular suspects. So our metagame seems like we have, I don't know how many decks there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-ish. 14-ish decks that are all kind of viable, kind of up there. Some more than others for sure. I don't know how truly viable the Charizard Dusknoir deck is, but it did do well at some tournaments. And now we can kind of look at the standings, and we can see how things played out. So for me, as a player that's been playing a lot of Dragapults lately, seeing Dragapult take down the whole event is really cool. We just see a straight up list utilizing the new Hilda card, being able to search for energies and evolutions. Very similar to Tord's NEIC list. A lot of lists are running Jamming Tower, so they can get around the Genesect that Brent Tonneson popularized at the Azul GG tournament. So I think Dragapult lists really need to be running Jamming Tower in order to see success now. What I'll do here is I'll also just turn off my camera while we look over some of these lists. So we see that it's a pretty straight up standard list. If you've been playing Dragapult, this is what a straight up Dragapult list be looking like. So we can kind of go back there. Shout out to them and shout out to all the players. We see Wells, like kind of a Ogre Pawn box deck comes second, which is really interesting. It's something that we haven't really seen a lot of. I'm not sure if this is like the Cornerstone Ogre Pawn's honestly quite strong in a format where a lot of decks just don't have answers to it. By your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability, being able to go between Wellspring and Cornerstone sounds pretty good. A lot of the dark Pokemon are weak to grass. So there's like definitely like maybe this type of archetype is better now. It's interesting to see it all the way up there, but shout out them. Then we see a Dragapult Dusknoir. So like first things first is Dragapults just seem to dominate the metagame, kind of how it has been in the past little bit. And I think like this list is just a couple cards off than what I've been playing at League Cups and League Challenges. I think that the Hilda adds a lot to the deck. Obviously Hilda's not released, so it's just swapping the Jacques for Hildas in a lot of cases, and then adjusting for the metagame by adding Jamming Tower in, and maybe adjusting the energy count a little bit because Hilda exists in the deck, giving you room for something like a fourth Night Stretcher, but you could also cut the Night Stretcher for a Dragapult. So standard list for sure, but consistent, very good archetype. We see Charizard Dragapult. So this deck's kind of a new deck in some ways, where, or a new stylization of the deck, where you play Duskulls, Dusklops, Dusknoir, and you're just trying to pop, and it's just Charizard. It's very similar to the Charizard Dragapult, the Dunsparce deck, that me and a few of my friends from Montreal kind of played, and they kind of popularized it over here. Except it's going with Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri is pretty good in a format where like your opponent's shutting down items a lot of the time with the expected Jellicent. So I think it's a pretty cool build. I like it. I think it's definitely has some opportunity to see success. Seeing Joltik Box here is pretty interesting. We see Joltik Box, we see Genesect shutting things off. We see we don't see Lily's Clefairy, which is interesting. Maybe it's because the builds are actually on Latias now, and that the Blood Moon Ursaluna can come in a little bit more clutch. That's certainly interesting. But I think like Joltik Box lists are they'll look very similar. I think literally here it's just replacing energy for psychic, and then the Genesect could be a Lily's Clefairy, and then this list seems quite strong. Yeah, it just seems like a super straight up solid list here, with the Brave Bangle being able to use on Galvantula so it can knock things out, giving you a single prize card attacking option in a lot of cases. So really cool list from a really strong player. We're gonna see the Ethan's Typhlosion deck. Now, Ethan's Typhlosion, I think this build looks really similar now, like to a lot of other builds. I don't know if there's anything else here, but like if I think about it, 480, 280, 280 plus Brave Bangle. So I mean, I guess this is enough to knock out Dragapult, 280, 310, 320. And then Gravity Mountain kind of works to knock out Charizard if you need to. I wouldn't be surprised if most lists kind of ended up looking like this when it comes down to it. I'd have to look at a few more, but I think they're going more Drakloak to draw over utilizing things like Pidgeot nowadays. So it's cool to see Ethan's Typhlosion all the way up there. Then we see another Dragapult Dusknoir deck. I believe this is the exact same list as the last one we just looked at, in terms of Dragapult Dusknoir, that is. Yeah, because I think I read something about it on Twitter or X, and they were all kind of this playing the same list. A lot of them did quite well. Now we see kind of a straight up Charizard build, players playing Chi-Yu being very strong against the Goldangos. That probably got countered a little bit in this tournament, but that's okay. We see they're playing Hilda in the list too, which is pretty interesting. Definitely something to consider there. We see another version of this deck, Mist Energy, being added right into this deck, so that you're able to mist, stop any special effects like damage counter placements. So mist energy is really cool again in a lot of cases. I think Charizard decks are going to go through a bit of a transformation period, because I see that there's already some changes between this list, the other list that we just looked at. Something with Charizard seems really good. Seeing strong players like Grant Manley play Gardevoir. So if you're looking for some Gardevoir sauce, this seems incredibly powerful when it comes down to it. Very similar to what Isaiah Bradner won the North American International Championships with. And I think there's a lot there's a lot that might go into this deck. Like I could see a Drifloon being added into this deck, but we see Fluttermane being able to stop the abilities of things like Jellicent. So like, as much as Jellicent didn't pop off and it's not in the top 10 of the tournament, it's a 1,500 player tournament. We also have to understand that this is an online tournament. The tournament ran into the wee hours of the night, so maybe some top players, I mean, there's a lot of top players that played it, maybe decided not to play it. Like, I didn't see, not to say Isaiah didn't show up and Henry Chow didn't show up as far as I'm concerned. Maybe they played through anonymous names. That Gardevoir Jellicent didn't really pop up. I mean, if we look at Gardevoir Jellicent, the top one was Adam Calamat going 8-1-2 drop. Now, I'm not sure if that's a record that could have continued on. And we see like it's 50th, like it's a top 64 finish, but like Typhlosion seemed to do better than its significantly better. Like Typhlosion, what I thought was a top 20 deck, is now a top 10 deck. And we'll kind of look over like until the top 24, which is top cut at this tournament. So we see the Ho-Oh Armarouge deck, and I think that there's a lot of really interesting cards in this deck, and maybe Reshiram is a nice addition to the deck. For every prize card, so you're just grabbing the energies with Ho-Ohs, and now you're able to move those energies around. I'm surprised that there's no Prism energy, but maybe it's the Prism energies aren't useful on the Armarouge, so you can't really attach to them. I'd want to kind of look into this archetype a little bit more and see how it grows. But really cool deck there. We see another Charizard Pidgeot here. We see that they're playing the Dark, the Mist. So again, like a little bit different than expected, going with the hard Dark, going with the Mist, but they also play the Energy Surge, so maybe that's the reason why. Want to like look into that a little bit more. We see our first Grimmsnarl here. Grimmsnarl's doing quite well across the board. I think Grimmsnarl is definitely like a fan favorite deck. Piper's a very popular player, doing very well at NEIC, so it seems like it's a deck that we should definitely be on the lookout for in the future. Another Joltik box deck here, this one playing the Lilius Clefairy, a little bit more of a standard list than what Steven Vrasco played. Some cool techs with the Team Rockets Watchtower and the Jamming Tower. A lot of tools to be playing with that Jamming Tower, but it's interesting to see how it might end up going. And then we're going to see our first Crustle deck. So this is the kind of the Crustle archetype that I was talking about, where it's using Crustle's Mysterious Rock in, prevent all damage into this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. And we got Monkey Dory to move the damage counters off. So you're just reflecting a lot of damage counters onto your opponent's Pokemon. Using Town Store to search things out. Like, I think like this is a type of archetype, like if you're playing Dango, you're like, cool, I lose. If you're playing some decks that just lose to Cornerstone, you're like, awesome, this is so cool, right? Like there's a lot of decks that just flat out lose to this, and its matchup spread's quite strong. So it's just you lose to decks like Gardevoir, which is a huge issue, but if you want to dodge, you're fine. We're gonna see our first Raging Bolts deck. And for all the people out there who keep on telling me that the straight up version of Raging Bolt is better, this version always does better in the long run with Noctowl. So not to be like, come at me, bro. But it's one of those things where like, I like this version better of the deck and I think it's almost always doing better than the other version. So something to consider, right? Like your metagame locally might be different, and that's cool. So we see that we see a teched out version of the deck playing a Cornerstone, an Iron Leaf, so Badu. Those are pretty new techs to the list. Otherwise, I think that it's solid. All Blitzel's been playing it. Absolutely fantastic player. So pretty cool over there. We see kind of more of a straight up version of the Crustle Monkey Dory deck. Little toned down here when it comes down to it. I think that it's a great archetype. I'm telling my wife, who's going to the store, she's like going to a card store today, to buy Labubus, y'all. It's one of those things where yeah, the card store sells Labubus, and she's picking up Crustles because my Crustles are stuck. I got some cards from one of the other Shuffle Squad members. They're just like stuck at customs. Being Canadian is fun sometimes. Not sure why. We see that there is an EV box deck. No Sylveon here, which is kind of interesting. The Wellspring mask is kind of cool. Might be the way to play this deck. And we see a lot of similarities to the Ginsburg list that we saw at NEIC. So again, our metagame's not really changing too much. Like, it's definitely shifted and adjusted for some decks like Gardevoir Jetlessons, but not really from the cards of Black Bull, White Flare. We see another Grimmsnarl, so Grimmsnarl proving itself to be a top deck. A little bit of a teched out list here, but that's cool. We see some Dragapult Charizard decks. Looking pretty similar to usual. I think they changed their A spec from Unfair Stamp to Max Belt. There's another list right beside it. Prime Catcher. Like, I think some of these Charizard decks and Dragapult decks have a lot of realm of teching when it comes to their A spec. A spec teching, I think, is one of the cool arts of deck building nowadays. So some pretty cool things across the board. We see another Joltik box. Joltik box continuously popping up. We see this build without the Psychic Energies as well again. So some changes to the archetype. And we see the Brave Bangle. So very similar to what Steven Verasco is playing. We see a straight up Gardevoir list. And again, we're looking very similar to what Isaiah Bradner played. I think Drifloon might be cool in this format, but maybe it's better just go quad Monkey Dory. Have to consider I'm not the Gardevoir expert. I talk to my friends like Josh Rink whenever I'm having some Gardevoir thoughts. Ben Hebert is local as well, so I could always ask him. I got a few Gardevoir players in my area that are very strong and invited to Worlds, so you can always ask around. And then we see another Typhlosion deck. So Typhlosion running with the Dracloak being the more popular version, the Brave Bangles, the Gravity Mountains. So I think these lists are coming well together when it comes down to it. I have to compare and see and go over all that. But that's for the top 10 decks later on this week. Now, this is almost, we've almost gone through the top 32, not to take away from top players like Callie Moore and Nathan Ginsburg and other players as well. There's a handful of other decks here. I will put the list of the decks available in the description, so you can click on this link and double check it out. But overall, like, I thought that it was really cool to see a large tournament. Definitely going to shake up the metagame, or at least what we thought of it. And we'll see how things really go from here. If you're watching this video right when it comes out, there's a late night championships tonight. We're not going to have 1,500 players, but we might continue to hit over 400 players. So we'll see how the metagame shapes up there. But yeah, that's what we got going on for this video. We'll see how everything continues to change up when it comes to the metagame. But for now, the metagame is forever changing and always changing. And I'm sure we'll see another Smart Series before Worlds at the very least, the late nights. And I really wouldn't be surprised to see some massive metagame pushes in the near future. So keep on staying tuned for more great content. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. And if you're looking for any coaching before Worlds or to get ready for next season, local cups challenges, totally would love to help you on your Pokemon journey. Catch you with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great day. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes.
Tabi no hajimari wa tsune ni michi e no ippo de aru. Sore wa yami e to tsuzuku. 初めの一歩を踏み出すには勇気がいる。そして旅の終わりには旅を始めた時の自分とは別人になっているかもしれない。旅に出よう。物語の次の章がお主を待っている。将軍の道を歩め。侍の箱とともに。アルティメットガードが送る冒険の第一章。刀将軍の道近日発売。
Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.